Welcome. Hello. My name is Michele.
My name is Diana.
Tiana?
Diana.
Spell like...
Tyania.
Ah. Glad you're able to come. And you wanted to be number 6. Guess I'll have to find out why that number was important to you. Well, I guess we should probably say who you were that we were talking about and what life, for sake of recording. I'll let you do the honors.
My given name was Cleopatra.
The real Cleopatra.
If we must drag titles into this, yes. Mistress of the Nile, Queen of Egypt,
Bane of Rome.
Goddess Reborn. You see, people see through the lens of that, oh, you're Cleopatra, descendant of the gods, Mistress of the Nile is well down. But they do not see that I'm just an awkwardly young girl standing there with too much jewelry and too much bling, as you were.
And a lot of political...
A lot of expectations.
backstabbing.
Very cutthroat.
Well, so you were 18 and your father died, and you had to be a co-ruler with your younger teenage brother who you had to marry. Is it Ptolemy? Is that how you pronounce his name? But it's P-T-O. But the P is silent, I'm thinking. And then Ptolemy kicks you out of the palace in Alexandria. Was it... I mean, they speculate because so much time has passed. We just have a very narrow lens of what actually happened, because, you know, people who retell. And so at this point, in 2016, what is a cultural myth about you versus actual fact? So, you know, in my experience in having these conversations, in learning who the person is behind their actions and why they did things, and you know, because that shares our common, I guess, I'd want to say humanness, but ultimately we're spiritual beings. But in this regard, we're human.
From my understanding, we still have those traits even if we're not exactly human. But that's off base and kilter, whatever your phrase is. It was very scary, to put the least. A lot of people did not know who I really was. Everyone just saw me as Cleopatra, you know, one of the rulers, one of the pharaohs.
Well, did they overlook you because you were the woman, and they assumed that your co-ruler Ptolemy was going to be...
Some saw me as just a woman. Some saw me as a political pawn that they could manipulate. Others just saw me as an obstacle to be removed.
Well, they speculate that in history that it was your younger brother, advisors are the ones that made him do all that stuff, kick you out of that palace, and you know, is that...
No, he just blamed his advisors.
So
he wanted to instate the old ways of only being one pharaoh.
Right.
To him, it was a outrageous travesty that happened to him, that he had to share the rule of Egypt with someone else, and add insult to injury that it was his older sister.
Where did he learn that attitude from his father, from your father, or just it just was a natural inclination for him?
I think it was a natural inclination, but surely there was other things that was influenced.
So was his mindset? I mean, when your father died, I mean, did he treat you that way even before your father died, or was all of a sudden, the switch had turned and he became that way?
He was more disinterested.
Hmm.
You're there, but I do not care about you. That was his attitude. He was always about him and his little world, and those who followed around, his little toadies.
Did he resent you being older because you were the next in line?
And also, he thought it wouldn't be right for the figurehead of Egypt to be a woman.
Even though there was a lot of strong women mythology ingrained in Egypt, really, you don't have Osiris without Isis and Hathor. I mean, all the mythology of Egypt had strong female counterparts to the male.
Yes, but his view of such things were, he was born to be a pharaoh, so in his mind he's a descendant of a god, so everyone should pave way to him, and then everyone should follow his footsteps.
So,
and it doesn't help that it's an infinite loop, what he's taught and then what others reinforce.
Right. Because now he's a figurehead. So I was just kind of wondering, when you were forced to marry your younger brother, is it just purely the political solidification of power, or is it really that's your husband and you do everything with your husband the way you're supposed to?
Well, it was a scheme of Hesatep. He was not exactly an advisor, but he was a political figurehead that was well respected.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted, in a grand scheme of things, for us to marry to consolidate power, and then for me to be offed. So, so in great outrage by the people, there would be a call to action, a call for justice, and then at that time, he would push my younger brother, to step up and take that power and go back to the true ancient ways. Because at this time, there was two sides of our, I guess you would call, pantheon. There was those who, the traditionalists, the ones who believed completely in the old way.
It's okay. It's all right.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
There was those who believed completely in the old way, and they wanted nothing better than to go back to those old ways where there was only one pharaoh, because they believed it showed the world we were weak by having two. And then there was, of course, those who were like, no, this is better because you look at history, you look what had happened when a pharaoh got too big for his britches.
Learn that phraseology too, huh?
Yes. So Hesotep was basically a hardcore traditionalist, if you were to categorize him as such. So in his mind, history would have remembered him as a great, revolutionist, or whatever you would call it. But in the end, he was an extremist. So
then how did he not get his way?
Because everyone believed that my brother kicked me out of Alexandria, but instead I fled.
So he made himself look powerful by saying, "I'm turned out my sister."
Yes, which I have no doubt was Hesotep's.
So then, how did you
idea.
Get motivated to flee then? Did you have inside information about the plan?
Yes, one of my chambermaidens came to me in tears and begged me to flee. She said she would rather die than serve my brother, who would bring ruin to Egypt if he had his way. So she begged me and pleaded, please leave, please leave.
But you left with a plan, though, didn't you? Because you weren't. It was going to be temporary, wasn't it? Because you did come back, and you famously enlisted the help of Julius Caesar.
Well, actually, at the time, I had no plan. You see, this is why I keep bringing up the story of me being awkward,
Right.
because a lot of people don't see me as that. I stumbled my way through everything. I was more reactive than proactive, if you will.
Well, I guess when you're young and you're 18, I get that. I was that way too. Because you probably didn't. I mean, did your father really do any prepping of you? And
No, always my brother.
because your father probably expected that you weren't gonna.
In a way, I was to be married off if the opportunity was to rise.
So you probably didn't really have anybody to trust.
No. But it was comforting the fact that one of my chamber maidens was actually cared about me enough to come to me in tears and just beg me to flee for my life.